Well, hello and welcome. I'm Eileen Kerlin Walsh, your host of Where the Road Rises. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, one of our aims is to introduce you to community leaders and nonprofits in the community and the resources they provide to benefit you, our children, and our families. So today we are going to revisit the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn. The museum's mission is to positively impact a child's potential in life through play-based education. They offer hands-on interactive exhibits designed to be played with, manipulated by children, including sensory-friendly programs, pajama parties. Adam's going to tell us about Wee Ones Wednesdays. The museum has built a community within the community, supporting children and their families in a safe place to thrive and grow together. And Adam is going to educate us today on that community and his role in it. Adam has many years with non-profits, including the Boy Scouts, radio stations, the American Heart Association, and for the last 15 years, he has been the executive director of the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn. I have served on Adam's board of directors in the past and saw firsthand the exceptional contribution that Adam and that museum have made to the community, to the children, to the families. So we are going to welcome Adam Woodworth here today and start learning a little bit more about the museum. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, why don't you start with telling us a little bit about how you handled the current pandemic, for heaven's sake. I know from being on the board how you handled moving from a tiny little space to the really big space, which you helped find the resources for. So tell us a little bit maybe about your history with museum, as well as how you've handled those last couple of difficult years.
You know, I've been here 15 years, but it sure sounds strange to hear it.
Yes.
to have someone say it. So, yeah, it was it's been an interesting road these last 20 or so months. We were able to survive to remain or to reopen. But when we got word back in March of 2020 that kind of everything was shutting down, we didn't know if that was going to be for 2 weeks. I think initially it was 2 weeks is what they had said.
The 2 weeks.
It was a very long 2 weeks.
Yes.
We had to make some tough decisions. We had to let some staff go. Because without having customers, we didn't have positions available, and it really turned into a lot of fundraising at that point and trying to figure out what we were going to do. One of the initiatives that came out of this was that nonprofit children's museums are independent of one another, as you know. So we're all these individual, most of us nonprofit. There are a handful that are part of their city. Like Bloomington Normal is part of the city, Bourbonnais is part of their park district, but by and large we're mostly independent. And I started getting emails from colleagues throughout the state. What are we doing? What are we going to do? How are we going to survive this? I put together a Zoom call because Zoom became the new normal. And we started having meetings as CEOs and directors throughout the state to really try to figure out how we were all going to make it, because we all had our own challenges and issues. Some of us had didn't have much in the way of cash reserves to be able to ride out the storm. The Children's Museum in Champaign-Urbana closed its doors because of the pandemic, not to reopen. I think they sold their building too. So I mean, it had devastating impact on children's museums across the country. Staffing, most of our staffing levels on average in the state went down by over 80% during this time, and it was a challenge.
Yeah. But you survived.
We did. Things like the PPP loan that we were able to secure, things like the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, the generosity of community members and our members and donors, and we were able to keep things afloat. We started offering a little bit of programming online. We didn't do a lot of that because there were some children's museums who really were doing it well, so we made a decision to share a lot of what they were doing, and just so our families who visit us had something to be able to do with their child at home. And then when we were able to finally get the word that we could reopen, we were open for about 5 weeks. And then we had to close again because last winter. But we opened with timed reservation. We were only letting 50 people in at a time. They were there for 2 hours. Then we took an hour to clean and sanitize, and that was the model for a few months. And you're bringing in revenue during that time, but you're not bringing in enough revenue. Really? And so that's where the donations and some of these programs that were out there really helped give us the lift that we needed to be able to continue.
Yes. And what did that adaptation teach you? What new skill, or what did you have to revisit to adapt and grow?
It really made me look at what we were doing and how we were doing it operationally. I think by and large I'm going to not even say children's museums on this. I think most nonprofits realized just how important those cash reserves are to be able to weather a storm like this. And we had we had about 3 months with cash reserves, and and some museums didn't have that, and some museums had 6 to 8 months. So it was a struggle, for all of us. But it really emphasized the importance of those cash reserves. And then as we came out of the closure and we started to reopen, and we were opening it with this model of 50 people at a time, we had families coming in. And if you think about this, so when we closed in March, if you had a child that was, say, 9 months old, when we reopened for good in January of 21, that child was 9 months older. So they were 18 months at that point. We had families coming in telling us that this is the first time my child has been out. This is the first time my child has seen other children and played with other children, because maybe they didn't have siblings, or maybe they didn't have, and so there was some real concern from families about child development. What is this going to do? How is this going to impact my child? So that's where this We Ones Wednesdays came in. We decided to open the doors for the littles. We call them the littles, the 0 to 2, and just give them a space for just them and a time for just them. And we started doing this on Wednesday mornings. And at first, it was just good enough to open the door. I mean, families were so appreciative. Yes. It was so nice to see these littles running and playing, and kids at that age don't really play with each other. It's more parallel play, But still, to see that was just amazing.
So, Adam, did you notice the deficit, and have you noticed the improvement in the little ones?
Yes and no, but really it was more just the concerns of the parents. Yeah, and we moved forward with an initiative to pilot having physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, behavior therapists to come in. And we've done this a couple of times now, where they've come in and just to be there. And it's not that they're doing any kind of formal assessment or any of that. It's really to break down that access, that barrier of access for families. Because, as a parent, if you think, oh, maybe my child is behind, what do I need to do? Well, first of all, I got to figure out who to talk to. I'm probably going to go online and get maybe some good advice and maybe some not so good advice. I'm going to, so then I'm going to find a place that's going to be able to do an evaluation, but now I got to make an appointment. I'm taking my child to a place that's not their natural environment. Are they going to behave differently there? Which is something that does happen. So what we were able to do by just having these folks in the museum, a parent could just walk up to someone and say, hey, my child is sitting this way. Is that normal? Should he be sitting like this? And you're talking right there with somebody. You don't have to go through all that other stuff.
So Adam, how did you access those experts in their fields?
Well, it started with our sensory friendly nights, is kind of where this idea stemmed from. So when we reopened, we identified two groups of children that were really didn't have anything. Park districts were starting to open up, but most of that was for that 4, 5, and older. And children with disabilities, children who are on the spectrum, they didn't have that social peer-to-peer while this stay-at-home order was in place. So we started with doing sensory-friendly nights, and we had been talking with ACE Therapies, and they were interested in sponsoring this program. So they asked, could we have our therapists there during the sessions, and we were like, yeah, that would be amazing. And that's where that idea stemmed from, because it was like, well, if these folks are here for these families, what if we found someone who works with the littles, and let's have those folks come in.
Absolutely, because we've heard how early detection, early intervention makes such a difference. Are there other differences in families since the pandemic, Adam, and how do you see the future of the museum? Are you going to go forward differently because of what you learned during the pandemic? We
are. We definitely are. I think one of the things that I see is a lot more stress. There's a lot more stress that families have right now that really stems around from a variety of things. Masking is one of those stressors. Families who have a child who's on the spectrum, when we would get phone calls, can we still come? You can't keep one on, and we are very accommodating to families. That's one of the reasons we started the sensory friendly nights, because these families are in the same struggles, and now they can come together. And you'll see what's been so magical for us, I think, is to see the parents talking at these events. There's I guess from our We Ones group, what I'm understanding from talking with a couple of parents, like new friendships were made, and play dates are getting scheduled now, and they're families who didn't know one another, so they're building their own support system. Within the Children's Museum, which is
Adam,
really neat.
Yeah, you've always been brilliant about bringing new ideas, new initiatives, and building upon what you had already. So congratulations on that. And in those 15 years you've been with the museum, you have watched a generation turn. So those who came as children are now bringing their young children.
Yes.
And what would you say, having seen that generational switch and everything you've gone through from your tiny little 900 square feet to what do you have now, 12,000?
Yeah.
What's been your wisdom from that? What have you learned? How are you a wiser man?
Well, I don't know if I'm any wiser, but I have learned a few things. I think first and foremost that families, parents are just looking for things to do with their children, and they want things they want to do fun things. But when you can make things educational and make things, where they're learning while they're doing something, I think that really gives parents that, and that hasn't changed. That's something that was there then and is there now. It is kind of neat to see, to have a parent to come in and they go, oh, I remember the kite machine from when I was at the old museum. That is the last. Well, there are two. There's that exhibit, and then our sand table exhibit are the two that are remaining from the old museum.
Yeah.
So we still do have those, and the kite machine still works. So
links the generations.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and parents will talk about, oh, I played with this when I was a child.
Oh, that's so great, and hopefully another generation yet, and maybe more.
And maybe more, yes.
So Adam, why don't you tell our viewers how to contact you, where to find the museum, where to get more information? Sure.
The easiest is on our website at it's www.cm, C as in children, M as in museum, oaklawn.org. And we're on Facebook and Instagram and I don't know, a few other places. So, you know,
Beautiful.
the Facebook tends to be the Facebook and Instagram probably tend to be the most accessed. That is one of the things that we've seen a change in too. You know, when we first opened the new museum, I mean, Facebook was it. That's where moms were. They were, you know, and that generation, you know, when their kids were growing up, they were like, well, we don't want to be on Facebook. Mom and Dad are on Facebook.
That's not cool.
So we're going to go to Instagram. So we're on Instagram too, and whenever their children get on, the next generation will move to that too.
Any TikTok yet?
Not yet.
But it's coming.
But it
you
is.
know it is.
It is coming, definitely.
Well, Adam, thank you so much. You've been doing a terrific job, and we look forward to you continuing to do so.
Thank you.
And viewers, I'm going to leave you with this lovely little poem that was left at the Louisiana Children's Museum anonymously. I tried to teach my child with books. He gave me only puzzled looks. I tried to teach my child with words. They passed him by, often unheard. Despairingly, I turned aside. How shall I teach my child, I cried. Into my hand he put the key. Come, he said, and play with me. I think that's perfect. That little poem just epitomizes everything Adam has been telling us about our children and maximizing their potential with play, and no better place than the Children's Museum in Oak Lawn. So check it out. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us. Thank you, viewers, for watching, and I will see you next time on Where the Road Rises. Thanks, and bye.